we've been having a day of Power Rangers. I have a show before this that's called Knights of the Rainbow Table. And we talk slightly gayish politics to gay politics and everything in between. And so me, Lawrence Winterman is our Blue Ranger, and our friend Jacob Summers is our Green Ranger, and he's our Thirst Trap Ranger. So at the end of every show, he takes his shirt off and just sits there and flexes. And he is a he's a handsome. If you ever think of like Chris Evans,
Uh-huh.
um, that's that's what you can imagine Jake is. He's slightly shorter, a little bit stockier, but just as like well fit, and just he makes a good Green Ranger. He's our thirst trapping for freedom.
Look, as I told you both earlier, I definitely am a very straight. I'm a bro. Okay, like internally, I listen to screaming white man music. I like to
Okay,
do
what's your
bro
favorite
things.
band?
I mean, I grew up on Under Oath,
Okay,
and I like Devil Wears Prada. I'm really into what's the new album that? Oh, We Came as Romans just dropped a brand new album, so that was
okay, yeah.
it's a banger. I like shit like that,
Mm,
So I say that because, I truly am a very straight man. Like I'm straight. I'm very heterosexual. But there are a few men where I look and I go, I get it. Like I wouldn't, but I understand, and
yeah,
and Chris Evans is one of them for me.
yeah, and like I mean, I'm pansexual. It's hearts, not parts. But I'm happily married to my wife. Like we've been married for 10 years, over 10 years now, and it's can't complain. We listen to heavy metal music too, and we go to rock festivals and concerts. A favorite thing to do is just watch people, because
Oh, same.
we both just enjoy the entire spectrum of experience through it. And it's so fun to, because we're so human together and we get to just see it all together.
Can I tell a
But
story?
Right.
Can I tell a
yes,
story? Am I allowed?
maybe
Lisa, this is
it's
your lot.
Lisa's
You have to give
show.
me
It's
permission.
Lisa's show.
Yeah, I know. I'm like welcoming everyone here on typing and waiting for you guys to give me a second. You wanted to say something though, Tim?
If I may, it's about what you just said. I have to tell the
Okay.
story. So I went with my brother to see Slayer on their farewell tour.
Oh,
Now
awesome.
I'm not a big Slayer fan, not in a bad way. I actually never got into them, but there were a couple guys that were next to us in like the seats, very like white collar, kind of like professional looking dudes. And Primus was opening for them, and
Oh
they were
wow.
quiet the whole time during Primus. And then during Slayer, I look over and I swear to God, their shirts are off, and one guy is like this, in the stands. The other guy is like,
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm here for it, man. Like you do you, bros. You're probably some
Hell
uptight
yeah.
dude in corporate America in New York City, and then here you are at Slayer, like shirts are off, and you're air tripping the whole thing. I just loved it.
More
Yeah.
people need to go to rock festivals, and I think they'd shoot less people, because rock, you get
True.
everything out. Go to a mosh pit. You get all your anger out, man. Go have fun. Anyway, sorry, Lisa, we took over your show.
Again. And this time it was bro stuff. I don't know. So Tim, you are a leader, pretty much the beginner of the new evangelicals, and you were raised in the church,
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
Um, are you related to any pastors or anything?
No. No. My
No.
my my dad was someone who was at the church all the time, but he was never a
Mhm.
pastor.
Okay. Did he do a laity type stuff or just
Definitely involved, definitely part of
yeah.
church leadership. One of my oldest memories was being an 8-year-old usher walking down to get the offering plate, like a suit and a tie, handing out bulletins. So I've been into church life since I was born.
Right, right. So, when did you start questioning what was going on? Where does and was it politics and the merging of it that caused those questions, or was it, the fact that there's hypocrisy in what they teach?
Well, I mean, how long do you have? There is kind of a story. I mean, I don't mind unpacking it, but I think it's
Sure.
worth telling the story so your
Yeah.
audience understands.
No.
So when you grow up in white evangelicalism, like it is very much a insular space. So
Yes, it
you
is.
have people that kind of interpret the world for you, whether it's authors or pastors who are kind of in the circuit, or your own church leaders or pastors, or family. I mean, for example, like I said earlier, I grew up on Under Oath. Well, they were a Christian heavy metal band, so I listened to Under Oath. I didn't listen to Static X or to Mudvayne. They were like,
Right.
ooh, spooky, right? So I grew up in this world that gives you a certain lens of how to see what's outside of it. To be
Right.
afraid of the world. Don't send your kids to liberal college. They'll get indoctrinated. Now, it's not overtly political when you're in the church world, at least initially for me. It was
Right.
more about theological. We don't want you to be corrupted by the world and the worldly values. We want you to save yourself for marriage. We don't want you to live like the world and drink and curse. Right? That's kind of like up
Mhm.
like the vibe. And to be
Right.
clear, like I prayed the prayer, and for those of you who know what that is, you understand exactly
Yes.
what I'm talking about, right?
The sinner's
You at
prayer.
some point make a profession of faith, maybe with your parents,
Mhm.
and I have amazing parents. They've always been amazing people. But they led me through the prayer early, and usually it's designed to not have you sent to hell when you die. Like you're kind of introduced to Jesus in this space in that way. Like, look, Jesus
Mhm.
paid the penalty for your sins. So one
Mhm.
day when you die, you'll go to heaven with him and not go to the bad place, which is
Mhm.
hell. Some people are taught at a young age that hell is a burning oven, and like
Right.
that's the imagery that they're given. I was taught that very early. So you're
Right.
in this space where you're praying this prayer, you're growing up, and you're also being taught like how it's important to be a God-fearing Christian. You want to give your all to
Right.
Christ. You want to give everything to Christ. A lot of this language of devoting your entire life to the cause, right?
Mhm.
And so I did it. So I did.
Right.
I read the books. I grew up. I mean, people know what Awana is. I did Awana. I even worked for one of the largest um, parachurch ministries. These are ministries that are involved in church life, but are not churches themselves,
Right.
called Child Evangelism Fellowship.
Okay.
CEF. And they do these 5-day clubs or these good news clubs all around the world, including in public schools in America and in people's houses. And I was a part of that organization as a youth group person. I raised my own money so I could teach these good news clubs to get
Mhm.
people little kids to pray this prayer. I have what was
Mhm.
called the wordless book. It's different colors. You walk
Oh,
them through how
good.
the gold page stands for the gates, the streets of heaven. The red page stands for the blood that Christ shed for you. The
Oh,
dark
wow.
page, not black anymore, thank God, but the dark page stands for sin. The white page stands for God's holiness. It's a whole thing. And so I did that. I helped plant churches. I got involved as a drummer. I mean, I used to play professionally in and outside of the church as a drummer.
Mhm.
And so I was in those, that was my world. My friends were
Right.
there. The
Mhm.
authors, the theologians that I was introduced to were all in that world. And so I say that because you have to understand that like this wasn't an overnight journey.
No.
It
No, it
never
isn't.
is.
No,
Because and
I
I
understand.
don't even use this term in a derogatory way, but the indoctrination is very strong,
It
right?
is.
Look, I have kids. I have a 3 and a 5-year-old. When I tell them something, they just believe me.
Right.
When I taught them how to count their numbers, they believe
Mhm.
that 1 is 1 and 2 is 2, right? 5 isn't 1
Right.
for them. 1 is 1. And that's it. That's reality, right? And so you can imagine being taught these things about God and they're presented to you in like absolute ways, right?
Mhm.
Hey, this
Yes.
is who God is. This is what Jesus did. This is where you're going to go when you die. They're just new facts of life for me, right?
Right.
And so that world, it's really, it really, it takes deep roots inside of you.
Mhm.
It's not all bad, to be clear. A lot of people live very, beautiful lives, and they find their
Right.
life there. I certainly did for a long time. So the question is then, what led me out, right?
Right.
And
Right.
the honest answer is Jesus.
Okay.
I was someone who took the teachings of my church seriously. When
Right.
they told me to be a radical Christ follower no matter what, I said, "Okay, I'll do that." When they said to study the scriptures, right? I'll do that. When they said never to compromise my faith or my values of integrity and justice and, all that, I said, "Okay, I'll do that." So, you kind of as you get older in the church, in the white evangelical church to be clear,
Right.
you start kind of having these questions.
Mhm.
Okay. Like for example, I was raised in more Calvinist tradition, which taught that God
Right.
predetermined all things, right? Who's gonna get
Right.
saved, who's not. And, well, how does
That's
that
really
work? Like
common in
how
those.
what yes, yeah. And they use an acronym called TULIP. It's a whole thing. I
Right.
won't go into it here. But like I would think to myself at like 17, well, how would so God like predetermined who would get saved and who wouldn't, but
Yeah, then
God's
what
also
happens to
really
all those that don't get saved? That doesn't seem like a just God at all, does it?
exactly. They're gonna burn in hell because God needs justice? That seems kind of over the top. Like, don't get me wrong, we all do bad things, but eternally burning because God needs it because he's holy? Okay. Or even like Bible questions, like, wait, literally, I was like 16 when I was like, wait a second. if Adam and Eve were the first two humans ever, were they sleeping with their kids at some point? Like, you just have these like
Right.
logical questions that you have to ask, right? Now, the
Right.
church, they're ready for those questions. They have these predetermined answers. And some of them make sense, some of them don't. But the way that they're given to you, you're able to kind of squash some of those more rational questions that you
Right.
have. But you still have them, right? So
Right.
I was one of those kids, naturally curious. At the same time, I'm also growing up on a steady diet of talk radio. So I'm listening to Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh. I'm
Oh,
listening
okay.
to all the time. And Michael Savage, I can give Bob Grant, I can give you all the names, you know? So that's kind
Right.
of shaping how I think about politics a little bit. My church was never overtly political, but it was kind of in the water that I swam in. It just was, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as I got older, I started kind of thinking about like, I wonder why the church like really seems so angry at gay people. Now, to be very clear, I was not affirming for a very long time, right? I mean, when
Right.
I was 18, I was like, well, I still think it's a sin. But like it
Right.
seems like we're kind of picking on this one sin over the other ones. Like the Bible talks
Right.
about greed being a
Exactly.
sin, but the church isn't talking about greed ever. They're always talking
Mm-mm.
about the gays. So I started
Right.
having more and more of these questions, right? Started exploring more in my Christian tradition. Maybe an image for the audience is to think about Christianity like a big house. And I was in the basement of Christianity. And when you're down there, you're taught that's all there is to being a true Christian. There's nothing above ground. So everything I was searching for was still within the white evangelical house. So I was looking for other answers to this stuff. Okay, so keep this all in mind, right? I'm part
Right.
of a small group of people that we're doing community with. Like I'm all in. I'm radicalized for Jesus.
Right.
So I was getting more and more suspicious of like just things that I couldn't reconcile on a theological side and on a political side. I was just getting more curious. And in 2016, when Trump came along, that was the first moment where I said to myself, oh, something is really wrong here. Like usually I could push down or I could
Mm-hmm.
plug the dam, the cracks in the dam, right? Okay, there's a
Right.
little leak here, little leak here, no big deal. This felt like a massive rupture in the dam.
Right.
Because I'll tell you why. I grew up on what's called purity culture,
Right.
right? So I was taught very early on that God demands my sexual purity. This is
Correct.
how God has ordered the world.
And
One man,
divorce makes
one
Jesus cry.
that's right. That's right. That's exactly
I
right.
Which
remember being
I,
told that.
isn't it historically though that marriages aren't one man, one woman even in the Bible?
No, no, just
Just gloss
ignore that
over
Old
that.
part. No, no,
Testament.
you're thinking that's descriptive, not prescriptive. Okay,
Oh,
like
okay.
yeah, yeah, no,
Oh, okay.
those
Yeah,
parts
yeah,
don't
yeah.
matter, you know. But
That's the
honestly,
prequel.
that's what you're taught. And
Anyhow.
so so and by the way, I did that. My wife and I were both virgins. I mean, technically
Hmm.
virgins, but we got married, right? Like we did it.
Well,
And because I took it seriously.
right.
Okay, I couldn't even like be a volunteer worship drummer on the stage if I was sleeping with my girlfriend or even caught alone with her the wrong
Exactly.
way. So I believed them, you know, because God couldn't use someone who was unpure. So imagine the just level of shock and awe I have when I watched this tape of Donald Trump come out of him bragging about grabbing women by the you know
Hmm.
what, and I'm like, whoa, this sorry, my mom was calling me. Can't talk, mom. I'm like, ooh, I'm like, I'm like, this feels oh so icky, right? Because
Hmm.
I've
Right.
I've been taught in the church that this is everything I'm not supposed to be as a man. So I'm for a couple days, I'm thinking to myself, this is it. They're gonna drop support. Evangelicals would never
Hmm.
tolerate such sexual, crassness,
Right.
especially. I mean, by the way, the whole exchange is really bad. Like, I recommend
It
people if you
is.
can stomach it, go watch the whole clip. It's brutal. He's horrible, right? So
Right.
I'm thinking to myself, this is it. Maybe we'll get a third party finally. Maybe we'll finally have that third party because I sure as hell wasn't going to vote for Hillary Clinton. She wanted to kill babies and she was a horrible feminist, right? So I wasn't doing that.
Hmm.
But at this point, I can't vote for Trump either. And then evangelical leaders come out. We need a commander in chief, not a pastor in chief. Well, this is just locker room talk. And I'm like, excuse me? Like,
Hmm.
I'm sorry, what happened to these sexual morals that like you insisted were like
Right.
what God dictated and mandated for us to do? And that was when I said to myself, oh darn, something is really wrong here. That was the very beginning of what
Okay.
really the dam was open. I'm like, I can't stop the flood. I have too many questions. Something is wrong. That's the very beginning of my journey.
Okay. Okay. Um, as I said, I recognize like Awana. My oldest child went to Awana. So when you start talking Awana, I'm like, he's got to be about my son's age, give or take a few years, because that was when I was first really seeing Awana a lot in Baptist areas. And it was I don't know if you know this about Baptist churches, but in like the 90s, the new church plants quit being called Baptist churches because the Baptist churches were so loud about anti-gay and so forth that they were starting to have trouble getting people to come in that didn't know them. But if they came out as community churches, they got more people to show up and got more visitation. And it's always been, unfortunately, about how many people you can get in the pews and how many people you can get in the door. And
Yes.
they quit being Baptist churches on purpose
Wow.
because they were getting so infamous for all of their culture war stuff
Wow.
that they couldn't get people to come in anymore.
I
Can
believe
you
it.
can you explain for the layperson what Awana is?
Yeah.
Awana is kind of like a Christian version of and it's multi-gender boy and girl scouts. You have badges and you learn things, and it happens every Wednesday night at church when the parents are in prayer meeting.
So almost like for other people too, Adventure Scouts or the
Yeah.
Explorers. I think it
Yeah,
was
but
the
a very
Explorers.
Christianized version of it.
Oh,
It
okay.
it it's all there's a lot of indoctrination, so to speak, in it.
That makes
So
sense.
yeah, so AWANA stands for Approved Workmen Are Not Ashamed. That's it's actually an acronym.
Okay.
And it's essentially like a Bible training program for kids. You
Mhm.
go from very young, the earliest is called Cubbies, and you become a Sparky and so on and so forth.
Right.
And you have these little handbooks and you memorize Bible verses or the books of the Bible in order, which I can still recite. And then if you complete the books, you get shares, which is like fake money that you can spend in the Awana store. They
Yeah.
also have the Awana Olympics, different games that different churches will compete in. So it's a pretty robust system. It exists more in like the Baptist reform space. It's not so much in charismatic spaces. They have their own thing. But that's what it is. That's what Awana stands for.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep. So so that's the beginning of my journey of saying to myself, okay, something's up. Then I
Right.
saw the murder of Ahmaud Arbery happen.
Is it
And
mine or just his?
it says
I
you. It
think it's
says your internet.
yours, Lisa.
It's okay. I mean,
Are you
it's,
supposed to?
You're still no, we're still good on.
we're good on
Oh,
my end.
oh, there we go.
We're
We're
good.
Okay.
I start to see us coming back again on the
Okay.
live
I was
feed.
like
So
waiting you're going, wait a second. I hear nobody. Everybody looks frozen. And
yeah,
okay, Tim,
Substack's been
I
having weird
think
stuff
we
today.
need a little more information about Awana because everything kind of froze at that point. Like
Oh,
Summer
did
Bible
you guys not
Camp
hear me?
every Wednesday, kind of. Kind of. Yeah.
I heard what you were saying. But I don't know if everybody in the
Yeah,
audience
I
did.
didn't hear
Oh,
it.
okay. Sorry, I'll say it one more time. No problem.
Right.
So, Awana stands for Approved Workmen Are Not Ashamed. It's essentially a club for kids to help them learn more about the Bible. So,
Hmm.
when you're really young, you're called a cubby. Then you go to Sparkies and so on and so forth. And you learn the books of the Bible in order. You have these little workbooks, and you just memorize Bible verses. You recite it back to your
Right.
leader. They give you what's called a share. It's like fake money, and then you can spend it in the Awana store. They also have, Awana Olympics for games and stuff. So it's a pretty robust program. Yeah, that's
Okay.
how it
Oh,
is.
okay.
Wow.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Yeah.
no problem. And
Yeah.
then yeah,
When I got here to Missouri, the church here didn't want to spend the money to be part of the group. So they did their own pretend version of it. And I lost access to Awana's with my youngest son. So, but my oldest son, he was in Denver area, and Awana was humongous in Denver. It was
it's
just
huge.
about,
It's huge.
yeah, it is, and it's definitely a way to further indoctrinate kids. It really is. And I
Yeah,
came from a different place. I was a Sunday school teacher about the same time you're coming in Awanas. And I was already, of course, struggling with the fact that they focused on one sin more than others.
hmm hmm
And so I had all these kids who were like, I don't even want to be Christian because of how ugly they are to everybody.
right,
And I had a real trouble trying to encourage them to be Christian when they viewed Christianity as only hate.
right.
And that was like, in 2006 area, 2007, when I started having trouble with all of the kids coming to me going, "Well, I don't wanna be a Christian because they're hateful human beings."
Right.
What do you
Right.
say to that, you know?
A hundred
Um,
percent. 100%. Yeah, I mean, so at that point in my life, I was part of a small private school. I was homeschooled, by the way, for 9 years. In
I s
2007, 2008, I was part of a small private school. I graduated top 5 in my class out of 6.
mhm.
That's kinda my
There we go.
LOL joke, you know? But, yeah, I mean, I'm there. I didn't see the hatred because it wasn't aimed at me, right? I mean, I was
Right.
marching in pro-life rallies. I thought we had to save the babies from the new modern day
Correct.
Holocaust, right? And by the way, just to be clear, when I say that, I don't mean that flippantly. Like, I do believe in advocating for life affirming laws that like promote
Mm,
life everywhere. I just don't mean it in the commonly understood pro life sense of you're pro birth and then fuck them. You know what I mean? Like that's not how I think about that stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, when you're in that space, it's very much that way. And so Trump comes along. I'm flabbergasted. And then the other big moment where I really thought something is up was when I saw the murder of Ahmaud Arbery, I was like really taken aback by that. And again, I'm a white man in America, and I'm just trying to like, for me it was just like a come to Jesus moment of like, oh, and again, I had no clue the deep legacy of white evangelicalism and racism. I was just so ignorant.
right.
Shamefully, but truthfully, I was taught in my
Right.
church that MLK fixed racism in the '60s. So like, why are we still talking about it? I mean, that's the
Right.
perception that you're given. Nothing to see here. Everything's all good. And so when that happened, I was like, whoa. And then I'm watching people I know share like blatantly false facts about what happened. Oh,
Mhm.
he was armed and like they're like defending it. I'm like, guys, he first off, he wasn't armed. Number two, you saw the video. Like he was helpless, he was killed. Like, are you kidding me?
Right.
And then I saw, then we had George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. And that was another moment where I'm like, okay, something is really wrong. So I
Right.
just I started reading more widely. I read the book The Color of Compromise by Dr. Jamar
Mhm.
Tisby. He's a great historian, and that book absolutely wrecked me. None of this was about politics, by the way. I want your audience to understand that. I was not thinking, "Oh, I hate talk radio now. I hate my
No.
parents. I want to go left wing." I love my
No.
family. I love my parents. I loved everything about my life. It wasn't a political thing at all. It was a Jesus thing. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, I was taught to repent whenever you have done wrong or whenever you're guilty in sin. So if
Right.
I'm reading about the legacy of white evangelicalism and how it's really done so much harm towards the black
Mhm.
community, I
Yeah.
want to turn and go the other way. Like this was very logical for me. It really was. It's like,
Right.
okay, I'm applying what I've learned as a kid. I'm applying it now, right?
Right.
So I'm doing this work, and then COVID happens.
Mhm.
And then I'm watching pastors and worship leaders that either I know or who I see online say that it's tyranny to wear a mask during a pandemic. And
Mhm.
I'm thinking to myself, again, not political, I'm thinking, huh, well, I mean, we're called as Christians to love your neighbor as yourself.
Right.
And wearing a mask during a global pandemic, for which at the time we had no vaccine, seems logical as a way to show that I want to love my neighbor. Obeying, lockdown mandates makes sense.
Right.
It's a global pandemic. This seems very logical to me. And to watch people I knew spread lies that this is a pandemic, this is all the deep state. I'm like,
Mhm.
what are we talking about here, guys? And then to
Mhm.
watch churches defy masking orders or social distancing orders. All
Right.
of these were just major wake up calls. I call it the unholy trinity: Trump, Black Lives Matter, and COVID. And it was then during COVID when I said to myself, we need a new evangelical movement. And I thought of
Right.
the term, the new evangelicals. I was terrified to even start the account. I was a no name volunteer in South Jersey, no
Right.
ties to anything in the mainstream. But I started the account on Instagram. So I had to know, anyone else concerned about the direction of our faith? Anyone else have a lot of questions? Because I'm really struggling here. Again, not because I don't believe, but because
Right.
I emphatically believe. I'm radicalized to be this Jesus person. I have to be consistent. And so, yeah, and I started TNE on Instagram, and it blew up, and here we are 4 years later, almost five now, 5 years later.
Wow.
That's the story.
So so you're still Christian.
Oh yeah.
Just now when you call it deconstructed, is that something you came up with or is that something you came across as you found more
Yeah.
connection?
So it's funny, because when you live in your own bubbles, you think everyone knows what you
Mhm.
know, right? So
Right.
so there's the term is called deconstruction. A lot of people had the same thought I did, and they went online. especially during a
Mhm.
pandemic, right? And we
Right.
started talking about it. So it became kind of like a catch-all term. Essentially, all it meant to mean was that people are renegotiating what they believe.
Mhm.
Previously held absolute truth beliefs are now suddenly
Mhm.
on the table again to renegotiate. People are changing their minds. It's
Right.
not about landing in a certain place. Some people deconstructed Christianity and became an atheist. Some went more pantheist. Some went to a different religion. Some stayed Christian. So again, back to my analogy of the house, right? A
Mhm.
lot of us had the same point of origin, somewhere in the
Right.
basement of Christianity. And we
Right.
eventually got above ground, realized, oh shit, there's actually a huge house here full of Christian rooms that are worth exploring. But some people were like, you know what? This ain't for me. I want out completely. And they left. So
Right.
deconstruction is just that process of going from point A to wherever you land later on.
Right. Right. Um, oh shit, I had a follow-on question and I've forgotten it. It's terrible getting old.
Well, you don't look old to me, for the record. So,
It's just terrible having memory.
It
yeah,
is
Sometimes
for
memory is hard.
noticing that you don't have it anymore. Okay, so I noticed very late in life that I developed an avoidance of prophecy because when I was growing up in the 70s, every single thing that hit the news, pastors were trying to say how it fit into Revelation and that Jesus was coming tomorrow.
yep,
And so I got to the point I believed I couldn't understand prophecy because I couldn't understand how they were putting current events into it because it didn't sound like it fit.
yep.
So I avoided prophecy for a long time, and it wasn't until my 40s that I started reading Old Testament prophecy.
Hmm.
Does that have any influence on you when God himself in as far back as Exodus says to take care of the foreigner, take care of the widow, take care of the poor and the orphan. When you see where our country lands now in that, and the same people that are trying to run it are trying to declare us a Christian country, where does that hit you at all?
Well, in the sense of like, are you asking like, do I see the disconnect between like what they say in the Bible?
And did it help with your renegotiation at all when you started reading other things that were said in scripture?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I mean, for sure. And look, the Bible is it's such an interesting conversation, right? Because the way that white evangelical fundamentalism gives you the Bible is actually really unhealthy and also inaccurate.
Yes,
I mean,
very
it
much
just
so.
is, right?
It
And
is.
here's the interesting thing. For me, as I've had the privilege of interviewing some of the best biblical scholars on the planet right now, and I've had the
Mhm,
privilege of interviewing some amazing people. I'm more interested in the Bible than ever, ironically, right?
mhm,
But because I understand that it's such a more complicated collection of ancient texts than
right,
what I was given. Because what
right,
happens is this. I'll try and make it like kind of just hopefully easy to understand. But you know, long story short, the current okay, the current um the current version of
mhm,
white evangelical fundamentalism that we get comes
mhm,
from somewhere. It comes out of the fundamentalist movement that was born out of the modernist movement. Okay. So I'm going to
correct.
condense a lot really quick. When the
Okay,
Enlightenment period comes and the scientific method comes along and America starts moving into a modernist mindset, right? We can know
mhm,
absolute truth, etc. Um, they start to look at the Bible in different ways because all of a sudden now
mhm,
we're applying a different kind of critical lens to the Bible that we haven't historically done before, right? Is the
right,
resurrection true according to a
mhm,
modernist standpoint? Is the history that we're reading true in the sense of
right,
a modernist standpoint? Well, fundamentalists saw that as an attack. They saw it as like a
mhm,
threat. So they essentially took the modernist lens, put it on
mhm,
the Bible, did some apologetics, and then said, "Look, the Bible it fits. It fits. Like the Bible, it's true in terms of history. It's terms in true of it's true in terms of science, right?" They essentially took the modernist mindset, a very modern idea, and put it on the Bible, which you can't do because the
yeah,
Bible comes from an ancient world, right? The Hebrew
right,
authors of the scriptures were not modernists. They don't think about
mm-mm,
history the way we think about it. They don't think about storytelling the way we think about it. They don't think about transmission in terms of
mm-mm,
oral transmission the way we think about it, right? It's a whole different way of seeing the world, which
right,
honestly is amazing that we have this like somewhat well-preserved ancient collection of texts that are beautiful and complicated and also problematic at times, but that's to be understood. Right. But when you apply this modernist mindset and try and flatten the Bible out just to be a series of presuppositional truths, you end up giving people something that is on a house of cards. It's so
Mhm.
flimsy because once you realize what the Bible actually is, you realize that you've been sold a lie. Like
Right.
I was taught that I can't believe evolution because Genesis 1 says that the Bible that the earth was made in 6 literal days. Think about how much it blew my mind when I realized that Genesis 1 and 2 are separate stories and they're really allegories. They're not supposed to be taken literally. They're telling something deeper about the human condition, right? So that's just one example. So, yes, to answer your question, I'm sorry for being long winded here, but it's important.
Oh,
To
that's
answer your
great.
question, as I discovered from actual experts what the Bible is and isn't, I started seeing these themes. Oh, there
Mhm.
are these themes about
Mhm.
how we care for the foreigner. Now, again, I'm very
Mhm.
careful not to do a one to one. Hey, I live in
Right.
America and the Bible says this. We have to do it, right? But
Right.
for the people who are going to claim to stand on biblical values, my God, read the Bible, read the Hebrew Bible. It is
Exactly.
loaded with commands to do these things, right?
Right.
So, yes, absolutely. As I was doing that in reading, it definitely shaped, you know, my reality of like, wait, the Bible actually does not endorse capitalism. James
No.
5 is a damning critique of rich business owners who hoard wealth at the expense of their employees. And I was
Right.
never taught that passage in my church
Nope.
life ever.
You
I
wouldn't
wonder
be.
why, right?
Right.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because it's all about providing cover for what they're doing. I mean, from what I can tell, um, the fundamentalist movement started what, in the early 1900s?
Yeah, roughly. Yeah, 20th century.
Um,
Yep. Yep.
and it pretty much said, okay, literal Bible only, all of it's correct. And then, of course, the Schofield movement was part of eschatology and
Yes. Yes.
where they have the different dispensations.
Dispensationalism.
Yes.
John Nelson Darby.
Yeah. And then after that, politics got really married in at the civil rights movement
Yeah,
because there were whites who didn't want to have mixing of races,
that's right.
and they picked the Roe v. Wade question, which originally Protestants weren't concerned with,
100%.
and went to the GOP and said, "I can fill your coffers with voters if you just accept this. I will use 'Don't kill babies' to get people to vote against their own self-interest."
Yeah. No, that's I mean, that's correct.
Yeah.
That's a very condensed version of a very complicated story, but those are the
Yeah.
outcomes, right? To your point. I mean,
Yeah.
early evangelicalism, including white evangelicalism, was actually, I mean, the Wesleyan tradition,
Mhm.
they built the Underground Railroad. They were the
Right.
people who were ordaining women first. They were
Mhm.
incredibly conscious of capitalism and how they spend their money, right? So like,
Right.
there's a beautiful evangelical tradition that was helping liberate literally the oppressed of
Right.
people in slavery, right? And it's
Mhm.
a shame. What happened was fundamentalism kind of took over evangelicalism and
Right.
gave birth to a lot of things that we're seeing now. But yeah, you're completely correct in your assessment. People think that, oh well, the moral majority was founded over abortion. No, no, that is a crock of shit. The
No.
moral majority, Jerry Falwell, got politicized because of school integration. He actually wrote a
Correct.
sermon called Brown v. Board, where he says that if the justices knew the will of God, they would have never ruled in that way when it came to school integration, right? So that's what got him and many others, Bob Jones, that's what got
Mhm.
them to think about religious freedom for the first time. All this language that we hear now, it has a legacy, and it
Yep.
comes out of wanting to maintain power and privilege over their black neighbors.
Yes. And it's a really amazing thing once you see it, because all of a sudden so many things that you're seeing now make more sense than they ever have before. Because we a lot of us, like me, I was taught, I don't know if you know this, but I was actually in churches where the pastor was teaching Old Testament law as the perfect law.
Yeah. Wow.
And they were teaching, I sat in a Southern Baptist church, and they talked about stoning adolescents for standing up to their parents,
Yep.
because that is
Wow.
a stonable offense. And the
Perfect.
person speaking said, "The first time we stone a teenager, we will have the best behaved youth in the world."
Wow.
They were actually glorifying this. And that's when I started. And the thing is, when I heard this, I immediately thought, I live in the United States. We have separation of church and state. This will never happen. And here we are. And I feel like an idiot because I heard some of this in 1991 and just couldn't believe it would ever happen in this country.
I know. Well, they've been working feverishly behind the scenes. And look, I'm gonna say something that might upset some people, but we have to say it. Progressive media, mainstream media, the Democratic Party, they were warned by many people for a long time.
Mhm.
There are many scholars who have been doing this work way before I came along, begging people to take these threats seriously, begging people to please wake up and think about like what is coming our way. And they didn't. They didn't for whatever reason. For whatever reason, mainstream media didn't want to talk about it. The Democratic Party didn't want to talk about faith or religion or be aware of what's going on. And that's a huge
Right.
part of this too. I mean, look, Turning Point USA, $80 million a year in funding, PragerU, $68 million a year in funding. The right wing, they realized the power of new media formats way
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
Democrats or
Way before.
progressives did. You know, talk radio, right to Twitter, right to
Mhm.
YouTube, now Rumble. They have and I'm so passionate about this. They have a huge head start, and they continue to show that they're willing to fund these things big time.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, we get articles written about shadow money, about chorus. And I'm like, what
Mhm.
the
Hmm.
hell are we doing? Like,
Yeah.
Right.
honestly, like, what are you? This is why we can't get anything done. Because the second anyone tries to organize and people get paid money, and by the way, it wasn't even, I would debate the whole idea of dark money. I would debate the whole premise of that article. No shade
Right.
to the author, whatever, but like the article itself, I read and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, this is what you're concerned about? You should read Money, Lies, and God by Catherine Stewart if you want to get concerned about dark money funding like billionaire causes, okay? Because paying
Yeah.
someone $8 grand a month ain't it, period. And so it's like you look at the discrepancy where you have this left wing media ecosystem that is totally independent. There's no organizational structure, and now we know why. Meanwhile, on the right, they're building Rumble, they're building this platform, that platform. They're
Mhm.
paying people tens of thousands of dollars. Russia is paying Benny Johnson, money, 100 grand an episode to post their bullshit along with Tim Pool, right? I mean,
Right.
it's crazy. So it's a combination of two things, in my opinion. One, you're dealing with militant Christian supremacists who
Right.
believe that they have a calling by God to take over America, which gives them a
Right.
pretty damn strong motivation to do this. And
Right.
B, you have a very docile opposition that refuses to take it seriously.
I think
Or
they're
you're talking,
afraid too. They're afraid of being labeled as just as bad as the people that are doing the dark
right.
money and the real funding. So like, oh no, we can't be seen as being bad, but then we totally cut ourselves off as far as our ability to have any kind of defense against it as well, because we aren't building, we aren't organizing because we're
No, we're
afraid
not.
to.
And frankly, look, not for nothing, but like the fact that we can't even get Democratic politicians to say, we should stop bombing children.
Mhm.
I mean, like, guys, I was at the DNC. I sat with the Uncommitted Movement. I'm watching the pomp and circumstance of police being paraded around on stages. We're pro law and order and pro military. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what are we doing
Mhm.
here? This is not a big ask. Saying our tax dollars should not fund bombing children is like
Right.
101 for me. Like, this is not complicated, right? So,
Correct.
Yeah.
look, just to be frank, we have a long road ahead of us. I'm sorry to bitch and whine about this, but it
Oh
gets me
no,
so
no,
fired up.
I agree.
It gets
No,
me so fired up. So,
can
Right.
I want to ask a quick question here too, because
Sure.
somebody brought it up in the chat and you just brought up Turning Point USA and I looked it up so that I could verify this ahead of time to thank you, mainly saying for saying something about this is Turning Point USA is now partnering with the Department of Education to create civic-based content
Yeah, I heard about
for
that.
schools. So can you talk
okay.
about what that actually means, both either one of you on this one is like, what does that actually mean to have a very fundamentalist organization want to take over the education department?
Well, first off, they're one of 40 organizations that are doing that. Heritage Foundation's involved. I think PragerU's involved. So it's not just Turning Point. Look,
Right.
I like telling the truth even if it hurts. We're
Yeah.
fucked. There's no other
Mhm.
way. I don't know how else to tell people this. Like, I've been for years beating this drum, and Lisa, I'm sure you understand as well. This is part of the plan.
Yeah.
Look, the war on the public school system did not start 5 years ago.
No, it
Look up
didn't.
R.J. Rush Judy in the 60s and
Yeah.
70s. They want the Department of Education to fund it, and they wanted to
Yep.
take it over, right? They want to give children revisionist history. Why? This is loaded with white supremacy, right?
Correct.
That's what this is. Like, it's so clear what they're doing. And this is why a lot of people, a lot of academics were screaming before this election, please, you don't know what you're in for if this
Right.
happens. And for
That's
whatever
what I was
reason,
doing.
either they were outfunded or their voices were whatever, were just too quiet. Here we
Mhm.
are, and we're watching it happen. Don't
Yeah,
forget, Trump defunded the Department of Education earlier this year, and now it's the next step, right? Like you're dismantling, now you're going to rebuild in your
right,
image with your propaganda. It's
right.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no concern about truth in this administration. It's actually all about how to hide parts, revise others. It's very much an indoctrination, and it's to create. Ultimately, I honestly believe they want very obedient soldiers more than anything else.
100%. I mean, I
They,
sang this song as a
it's
kid. I'm in the Lord's army.
yeah,
I can
they
say it.
want to
I know.
take over Greenland and Canada one of these years, and they need people to send to do it, and they need people who believe that they are called to be the avenging angels of a perfect government. And you can't be that if you actually follow any of our history to any real understanding.
100%.
This is not a perfect government. This has never been a perfect country. And if you listen to Trump for even 10 minutes about our country's history, you're going to hear that we are 100% perfect, wonderful people, that blacks have never, ever been treated badly, that slavery was good and should be redone. I mean, Dr. David Jeremiah was actually known for preaching pro-slavery even in 10 years ago.
Mm,
You know, he was pro-slavery even then. And it's hard for us to watch, and it's hard for, I mean, I don't know about you, but in my area, I am warned not to put Democratic signs on my lawn.
wow.
They can't get Democrats to run in my state because they're afraid to. And that is a scary thing. And the thing is, I know we're very badly gerrymandered, but if we could get the 30 some percent that dropped out because they didn't think there was a chance, we could get everybody to vote all this out. It's getting people the hope to believe long enough to make a difference seems to be where we're really struggling at.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's hard for us to get everybody all on the same page. When you try to go to the national level and say we want direction, the national level disappears.
Yeah, I mean it's a perfect storm. I'm not sure how else to
It
say it.
is.
Like the Democratic Party is in shambles. There's so much infighting. There are purity tests at times.
Mhm.
And look, I want to be very clear. I since the beginning, especially after October 7th, when I really started learning about Israel Palestine, I have always been in the position of we are what we're doing in Palestine is a genocide. Okay. I have
Mhm.
Palestinian friends, Christians who have come on the show. Like I'm there. I always have been. Okay. But and I'm not saying that this even affected the election outcome, but I will say it didn't help. It was
Mhm.
very frustrating seeing white hardcore leftists be like, I refuse to vote for Harris over this. I understand
Oh,
the
yeah.
sentiment, but if you think Trump somehow would have been better, it blew my mind, you know? So
Mhm.
there's a level of pragmatism that we have to have if we're gonna get stuff done. It just is what
Right.
it is. Like we live in a broken world. We're not perfect people. We're gonna
Right.
annoy each other. I'm not advocating for having Matt Gates level predators in the Democratic Party, to be clear, okay?
No.
People who are corrupt, people who are sold out to corporate interests, who do bad things like that. There's no place for that. Absolutely.
Right.
But man, sometimes it feels like if you sneeze the wrong direction, oh my God, you're problematic. It's like, oh my God,
Exactly.
it was an honest mistake. I just didn't know. I just did not know, you know? And we got to rethink our approach going forward. We just have to.
A real story. I wrote a letter to the Democratic Party, and I didn't realize that the Democrat Party was considered a an insult. 'Cause I grew up independent, I've always been independent. I have never been part of the Democratic Party, and I said Democrat Party, and I got flamed
Yeah.
hard for it, and it's like,
I just
you
didn't know.
know?
I didn't know. By the way, I didn't know either. You know why? Because right wing radio always said Democrat. Right? Rush
Right,
Limbaugh always said that. I
right,
just assumed it was Democrat Party. I just
yeah,
didn't know, you know?
yeah, and
Absolutely.
it was like, "Gee, I'm really sorry to have offended you, but it doesn't change the fact that my words were right, and
Yeah.
I'll change it, but you don't have to, like, act like I'm, just ate your firstborn child or something."
Exactly.
I
100%.
agree with that too. Like there's a
So,
huge purity test issue that we
yeah,
need to
we've
get
gotta get
over
rid of it.
really fast.
We've
Or the
we've
Democratic Party is going to crumble on itself and something's going to have to rise in its place. Like
Right.
like I
What are we
think we're
going to
seeing
do?
the precursors to that, unfortunately. I don't know what that means.
Well,
Um,
I'm sure you guys would agree here, but it's like I kind of live in this tension to both and where I'm like, yeah, that Democratic apparatus can go. Like it's been bought up by corporate money anyway. But
mhm,
also like we need to have something in place that's actually effective. Like I'm a huge fan of the Working Families Party, WFP.
Hmm.
They're doing great work there, but they were the ones behind Zora Mamdani. And I'm like,
Okay.
yes, like this is it. So I'm not saying that there isn't hope, but I do think that the current, Democratic apparatus, like your Nancy Pelosi's of the world. It's like, guys, like in some ways you're just as bought off
Yeah.
as the
Oh,
other side. And I
definitely.
don't want I just watched a great little docu short on YouTube about West Virginia. Bernie
Hmm.
Sanders went out there to talk to Trump supporters. West Virginia was abandoned by the Democratic Party because,
Hmm.
and there's quotes of Democrats saying this, we can find voters for every one voter we lose in West Virginia, we can find two somewhere else. It's like, what the hell, guys? So I
mhm.
don't, I'm not saying that progressives are overall the problem or that leftists are the problem. I understand I have major critiques to the Democratic Party, but then we have to
Hmm.
replace it with something. It's not
Right.
enough just to tear it down. We have to build. And
Yes.
building is always more difficult than tearing
Right.
down. You know how I know that? Because it was pretty easy for me to tear down white evangelicalism. It's really hard to build a robust theology and
Mhm.
worldview in its place. It takes time. So
It does.
we have to be willing to do that work.
Yeah, and I sit there sometimes thinking we'd be better off because of our unfortunate binary system that exists in this country, that we would be better off reforming the Democratic Party if we can. But
Yeah.
the problem is, it doesn't seem like the Democratic Party is willing to be reformed very much. Every time you try to, you know, approach them about things they should change, they just kind of like hold their hands over their ears and go back to spouting exactly what they have for the past 20 years. And it's frustrating.
Well,
It's
I mean,
really
let's
hard.
face it. What Joe Biden did by hanging on that long completely screwed us
Oh,
over.
yeah,
Yes.
that did.
Like the audacity, and I mean that. Look,
Yeah,
I'm not saying he's a bad dude. I mean, thank you, Joe. I was at the DNC, but like, dude, what were you thinking? You gave Harris like 195, 100 days to go against the right wing apparatus and Trump. Like,
yeah,
are you
there
kidding
was
me,
no
dude?
way.
Like, are you
Yeah,
kidding me? You gotta be joking. And by the way, I thought Harris was a great communicator, and most of her
Mhm.
platform, I was like, I'm on board for. Again, minus Palestine was a huge deal for me.
right.
But like, Jesus Christ, Joe. I mean, what the hell, dude? Trump is
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. And I think that what they really should have done, and this is probably not gonna make anyone happy with me, they should have done a primary that year. I think
Totally.
They should have.
if
Let
they
the
had
people
done a
decide.
primary, he had stepped aside from the beginning, and either she got it that way or we primaried someone else into that place, there might have been a lot more support for what happened. But when
Yep.
when you're like the default throw in at the last minute, there's no way you're going to get what you need out of it. It's just
Well,
not
and
gonna
not for
happen.
nothing, but you threw a black woman to the wolves, as is
Yeah,
per usual, right? Don't black
yeah,
Yeah.
women always tend to suffer? Like, they're the ones who are willing to go out on the limb. They're the ones that are usually first to everything, and they take the hardest hits. And like that
yep,
wasn't lost on me either. Like they gave the first ever, potential black woman of the president of the United States, like the shittiest hand ever, and was like, "Here, you'll be fine. Here, we'll give you
yeah.
$1 billion that we can't even spend effectively, but you'll be fine. Give me a break."
Yeah.
Yeah, and someone just posted Senator Cory Booker and Hakeem Jeffries took a picture with Benjamin Netanyahu. I was livid about that.
Right. Like, where's
Vote
your
them
and
out.
again, like where's your spine? Where's your moral spine?
Right.
This is the UN calls it a genocide. Genocide scholars call it genocide. Just watch the freaking videos on Instagram of the
Right.
children with their limbs blown off. Miss
Mhm.
Rachel, the sweetest lady on the planet, is like, I will not work with people who do not talk about Palestine. And here's Cory Booker, like, selfie. Are you joking? Like, you
Yeah.
gotta be kidding me, dude. This is not a nuanced, complicated thing
No,
at all. It's
no.
so
No.
binary in this case. Stop bombing people to death. They
Right.
are literally shooting fish in the barrel. Israel is, or the IDF is taking over the strip, which was, by the way, this was the plan all along. Anyone who
It
knows their
was.
history knows that this is a colonization effort in partnership with the U.S. government, right? Like,
Right.
Corey, how can you talk about like the need for human rights everywhere and then take a picture with one of the biggest war criminals of our time? And to be
Right.
very clear, because unfortunately we live in this world. I think that all Jewish people should be able to live in human flourishing and peace and in safety. This is not about Jews or Jewish people. This is
No.
about what Netanyahu and the IDF
And
and
war
the
crimes.
government of Israel is doing to a people group, and there's a big distinction.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
much
and
so.
I thank you for making that distinction too, because it needs to be said very clearly that none of us, and I'm speaking for myself, and I know Lisa and I have had plenty of conversations about what's going on, and Tim, you just said it pretty clearly yourself, is none of us are against Jewish people or Israel.
Right.
I'm Jewish, like by tradition. I got a big old Star of David. That was my grandmother's Star of David on my forearm. I know, really ironic tattoo and a placement for a tattoo. I did it for a reason. Um, but like there, it's a it as Qasim Rashid said,
Custom.
has said multiple times now, and Lawrence Winterman and I have said multiple times now, is it's a Holocaust going on. And we can no longer say the Holocaust. Coming up on Rosh Hashanah next week
Yep.
and Yom Kippur, two of the most high holidays in the Jewish faith, where you atone for your sins and you repent and you sit and you reflect on your life from that past year. And guess what? I now have to reflect on deconstructing my Judaism. Even though I'm not a practicing Jew, I am culturally Jewish, and that means stuff to me. Like it has heritage for me. I'm questioning whether I should do Hanukkah this year, whether I should celebrate a Hanukkah celebration this year, because that's a story during wartime. Like, was I sold a book of lies on that one too, or a bill of lies on that one too? Like,
Right.
we can make that distinction. The IDF and Bibi Netanyahu are killing people, and Ben
Right.
Gvir and others are massacring. Vote these
And we're
freaking people
supporting it
out.
in the United
Vote
States.
these fucking people. Sorry for swearing there. Vote
I think I
them
said F a
out.
lot today on this live.
Like, vote them out of fucking office already. Like you,
Yeah.
and I'm not someone who's going to run for a big public office. That would never be, that's not what I want to do. I can't do that. But I am going to ask that maybe others continue to step up. I know, Tim, you have a big following. I'm not saying you need to run, but I would encourage you to look into it, because you could replace people who are even new in a blue state, because we need to put pressure on blue states and Democrats. I think it's not a national party anymore that we need to care about. We need to take over our state parties and force them to do something.
Yeah.
Well, the groups that have been working on this started at the state level. That's why you have red states, is because they
Yes.
sat there and they looked and they gerrymandered to figure out how to get their voting in. And the red states exist because they have been focusing on getting in at state level for so long.
Yep. Absolutely.
And so we do need to start at state level, even local level, because they did the whole Moms for Liberty thing literally to take over as many of the school boards as they could to get a pro-white Christian
Yep.
curriculum. This was
100%.
from the beginning.
And it's here
That
now.
was their goal.
It's here now. Like
Look
they
at
don't have to
Oklahoma.
promote it anymore. It's
Right.
now law.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Look at Ryan Walters in Oklahoma. They are
Yeah.
like 50th in school education. But Ryan's like, don't worry though. We got the 10 Commandments in school. Mission accomplished.
While he's looking at porn at school too.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah, he's
Every
interesting,
accusation,
Ryan.
it's such a confession, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, interesting about that. Shouldn't be watching porn at school there, buddy. Wow, also your state restricts the access to porn because you're on the Texas networks and ISPs, and they don't allow access to porn unless you're over 18, and you have to do that weird age verification thing. Don't ask me how I know.
Don't worry.
But
Okay, you
in
go there.
Oklahoma, no, I'm just saying in Oklahoma, it's even how is this dude sitting on his computer in a public building, possibly on a school campus where
Mhm.
children might have access to it? How is he doing that and still have a job?
Yep.
Because he's the right kind of guy.
Well, because ultimately, here, look, I'll live with this, and I have to go in a minute here. My kids are almost.
Yeah, it's
But
almost 4.
here's the filter the audience needs to see MAGA through. Whatever gives them power and control, they will do. This is
Mhm.
why the same people that decried Colin Kaepernick for taking a knee, oh, the NFL shouldn't be political, are the same people demanding that every NFL team hold a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk. And if they don't, they're bad people. It's not
Right.
about the value of the thing
Mm-mm.
that they're claiming. It's about utilizing it for power and control in their favor.
Right.
That is once you see that, everything they do makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Until then, you will drive yourself mad with the hypocrisy and the double-sided, the double speak. They don't
Yeah.
care. Does it give us power? Yes. Okay, we'll do it. Does it give us more control? Yes. Okay, we'll do it. That's the rubric.
Yep. Yeah. They don't make sense because what we're looking at them to make sense for isn't what their goal is. As
Exactly.
long as you look at what their goal is and understand it, then all of a sudden everything they do makes sense. And it's really sad because if you were raised in church pews, what they do, you're assured makes sense based on the Bible.
Right.
And it's getting those people aware that's part of what motivates me.
Yeah.
Um,
Right there with you all the way.
yeah. Well, I'll let you go and so you can get to your kids. Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing so much of your story with us.
Well,
It
thanks for
really
having
helped.
me. We've talked for the past few days now. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys hosting me
Yeah.
multiple times. Happy to talk whenever you want.
Okay. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it so much,
Thanks,
Tim.
guys.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thanks, Lisa.
No problem. I figured I'd give you a few minutes to sum up and say anything goodbye if you wanted to, since his
Yeah.
kids are coming and it was coming up on 4.
Yeah, and
So,
it's a perfect time, I think, to close out too from
yeah.
my side is just say like this has been this has been a great learning session again too
Hmm.
on not just Tim, but like what we can actually be doing is
Right.
pressure your Democrats to do the right thing. And if they won't,
Hmm.
run against them, like
Yeah.
primary them. We need people out here. We don't have the billions of dollars that the right
No.
wing does funding us. We don't have people giving us that money in the same way or offering it or building platforms in the same way
Right.
they are. It's up
And
to
as soon as we
us.
try, they yell at us and say we're correct.
Yeah. So it is up to us. It's up to us to really do it. You have to
Right.
do it, and we have to do it together. So my big call and my way of summing all of this up is go subscribe to Tim, go subscribe to
Hmm.
Lisa, come subscribe to me, go become paid subscribers with Lisa and Tim. If you got any money left over for me, as Ali says, Wajahat Ali
I
says,
really
is
like him.
if you got money left over for me, I'll take some too, but please go help the networks you like, go help the creators you like too. Um,
Yeah.
and keep helping us build because Tim is, especially like
Yeah.
Tim is coming up in the world really fast. If we can
Yeah.
encourage folks like Tim, he's like he's like a James Talarico, but not in Texas.
Hmm.
That's a vision of Christianity I think people could get behind. And I
Hmm.
think that's
It
a
is.
vision of Christianity that people could actually re-understand to love and like, and wouldn't
Hmm.
push people like me away I've
Right.
never been Christian. So it's not something that I've ever ascribed to. But Tim and I would be personal friends and we
Hmm.
would get along and we have understanding and we would we would hang out and have a good time
Yeah.
because he's a good Christian person who cares.
Hmm.
Um, and you're a good Christian person who cares. And
Unless you
even if
talk
you're
to the
no
wrong
longer Christian,
Christians, then I'm
yeah,
not.
yeah, but to me, in my estimation, you guys are what good
Yeah.
Christians look like. Um,
That's what I want to do.
and um, I I just want to encourage people like you guys to keep putting your voices out there.
Yeah.
Um, And I'm excited to see you again next week. I reached
Yep.
out to somebody, I won't say who unless they respond back and say yes, but I
Okay.
may. I want to invite Ellie Leonard
Right.
and Melissa
Okay.
Corrigan on for an afternoon to coming up.
You
Uh,
think we could get Joe Walsh on?
We might be able
As
to.
far
I
as
have
the
to.
reaching out to disaffected kind of people and,
Yeah,
someone asked what happened to make the Tax Enough Party, the Tea Party, you know,
yeah,
and its growth into MAGA, and since he left it for that,
yeah.
it might be an
No,
interesting thing to go over.
I'd be glad to reach out to him about it.
Yeah.
I did a short part of a live today with Joe,
Mhm.
that Substack's been having video issues and it got cut off.
Yeah.
So when I talk to him next too,
Okay.
and I'll reach out to him about it to see if we can get him on, because that would be a really awesome show. That's
Yeah.
actually where I first really saw Tim at,
Yeah,
was,
I commented on Joe's leaving the Republican Party comment. It was one of the
yeah,
first things I commented on when I started hanging out here.
yeah. I think Joe's a good person that I want to keep talking to too. And
Yeah.
definitely I will reach out to see about getting him on here. Um, I think we can definitely keep expanding the show and bringing more guests on. We got, what, 187 people with us right
Yeah,
now.
yeah. This is like 150 more than my night stuff gets.
And and we've got other big lives going on too at the same time. The Contrarian has a live going on. Danielle Moody has a live going on, and she's an incredible host. She's on
Yeah, I
with
really like
Wajahat
Danielle.
Ali all the time.
Yeah,
Waj is also super amazing. He's not on
I
right
love
now, but
Woj.
Waj is so awesome. Um, but yeah, my big message: go out, go engage locally, go support your community. Um, Go make a new friend, maybe reach out to somebody who needs it, and contact your Democratic Party, especially your local Democratic Party, and go, how can I help? And if they don't want to do anything, go to the meetings, become the new chair, and take over.
Yeah, I think their meetings actually are this afternoon, the one local here. So
Yeah. And I hope you have a good afternoon.
I
Stay
hope you have a
safe.
great afternoon too. I'll see you Tuesday. Thank you everyone for coming. 5 calls works too. Yes, that's a great
Yep.
way to do things. Um, Always stand up for where you can. Stay safe when you have to, because we need you around longer than just, one yelling match with somebody who's a little crazy. So
And
thank you everybody for coming
No Kings rally is coming up in October.
in October. Yes, my
So mark
upside
your
down flag
dates.
is ready.
Find your rally buddies, find
Mhm.
your emergency contacts, get yourself a little preparedness bag, while you're there, have the right equipment. And maybe
You might,
before then we'll go over like what's rally prep like, because
yeah,
and peacefully and patriotically. And if you ever see somebody trying to fight or start violence during a rally, you put that shit down and you stop it, because that is what they want. They want us to incite violence or somebody to incite violence so they can blame it all on us. Do not let them do that. Peacefully and patriotically with your American flags. Wear pride, wear whatever you want to, but wear primarily patriotism, because
mhm,
that's what we're winning back. And that's what we're really fighting to show people. You want to wake people up and stop an apathy in a country, reinvigorate real patriotism and
a
not this
real debate.
bullshit that's going to be coming in the education system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can love your country and still disagree with it.
Oh, yeah. And have your camera rolling during
Yeah.
the rallies, like live stream. I'm going to be live streaming mine. I'm going to live stream the entirety of my rally
Cool.
so that if something were to happen, it's available and on camera and it's live footage. And I'm not going to allow anybody to do things like that. And I don't think my community will either. Um, as long as you continue to enforce your community to not do it, and that peaceful and patriotic is the way to go,
Yep.
that's the way to go. So thank you for
Okay.
giving me a couple moments to monologue.
Thank you,
I
everyone.
appreciate it, Lisa.
Yeah. Support Nick if you can. Support me if you can. Thank you, everyone, for coming, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Thanks, Lisa. Bye, everyone.